company dismissed. Thank you very much.
Well, welcome to another Sky Blue History podcast with myself and, of course, the club historian Jim Brown. Evening, Jim.
Evening, Claudio. Are you well?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Well, we've had better weeks, I suppose. Yet again, it's all been a bit weird, hasn't it, and wonderful in the life of a Coventry City fan. But of course, tonight we're going to chat about new manager bounce or not, whichever may be the case. And of course, this time last week, we had the brand new manager put in place. Well, I should say not manager, but head coach, Frank Lampard. And of course, his first match ended in a draw, which, although a lot of us may have been disappointed, it's not that much of a surprise, is it? Because not many managers have won their first game, have they, in the last, 20 years or so? Or
it's quite a rare occurrence, I think. And I certainly wasn't surprised with the result. And let's face it, we were lucky to get a draw, weren't we? After a very, very poor second half performance.
I feel it's probably done Frank Lampard a favour, because had we won handsomely 3-0, it would have definitely papered over a lot of cracks. And at least he saw, I think I spoke to you not long after the game, that our whole season was summed up in 90 minutes. The good, bad and the ugly was all there to see. And hopefully we can turn around, because we haven't got a bad squad of players. We just need a bit of guidance, I think.
Yes. And I think I said to you that I'm beginning to think that the rot started when AD left, and you wonder who's been coaching the defence, because they do look very, very nervous. They're shipping a lot of goals, and every time the opposition shoots, the ball seems to end up in the net.
Yes. I think Dennis Lawrence had a big part in that, didn't he, with the defensive coaching as well? So
yes. Well, it all goes back to last spring, doesn't it? When Dennis left and then AD left at the end of the season. But you know, the writing was on the wall in the second half of last season, wasn't it? You know, to concede 3 against United at Wembley was, you know, a couple of those were bad goals to concede, and then we had those 3 home defeats after Wembley, didn't we? Where the defence looked very shaky,
and the 3 goals at Blues were pretty woeful last season for most of it.
Yeah, that's right.
So it was there, but hopefully, because we do hope that kills us, isn't it? We do hope, don't we, being Coventry City fans, that it will all turn. But it's so different to many a season we've witnessed in the past, really, is it?
It isn't. No. The new manager bounce is not something that happens very often at Coventry.
No, because we as we will go into the managers we're going to talk about in a second. But if you think about it, if you're replacing a manager, it's either because the owner's got fed up with what he's got, or you're struggling. So it's not very often you bring somebody in when you're not struggling. So it'd be interesting how many teams do get the new manager bounce. It's probably not as many as you think.
No, I think it's normally referred to when they win their first game, isn't it? And nobody tracks it after that unless you're a supporter of that team, probably. Yes. So the big question is, who was the last Coventry City manager to win his first game?
No, yeah, good question, and. I mean, I know the answer now, but I didn't know at the time, and I was surprised. So let's tell everybody who it was.
Well, it was Stephen Presley, 11 years ago. And the 3 subsequent managers to Stephen, which is Tony Mowbray. I'm not counting caretakers, by the way. Tony Mowbray, Russell Slade, and Mark Robbins.
Yeah.
And none of them won. They all lost their first game. Should we talk about them separately?
Yeah, I think so.
Start with Tony Mowbray.
Yeah.
Who did arrive with a fantastic reputation, didn't he?
Yeah, and he's a manager who likes to play football, as people say, the proper way. He does like to attack, and it is a surprise because he was a big bustling defender, wasn't he? And it's strange. It's not the sort of style you put to Tony Mowbray. He's not that sort of. He wasn't that kind of player. But I
he wasn't.
He was a terrific manager, good coach. Everybody loved him.
Well, yeah, and he knew how to organise a defence, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
But his first game in charge, do you remember he took over from Presley?
Yeah.
And his first game in charge was a home game against Port Vale, and we lost 3-2. And I'm not sure. Were we going to go down that season? Did we? Did we have a points deduction?
Oh, that's a good question.
Let me look it up. It's 2014-15.
Or possibly.
Yes. Well, yeah, we were 21st in the table when Stephen got the boot. On the final game was the 21st of February. And we didn't have a points deduction. So we were 21st without a points deduction. So it was a pretty miserable state, considering we'd come back to the Rico earlier in the season.
Yeah, so was that the season though? So the following season is when we had all the good loanees and Adman and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So when Tony arrived, we were actually in the relegation zone.
Right.
The teams below us, this shows how far we've come. The teams below us, this is 10 years ago, were Crawley Town, Leighton Orient, and Yeovil Town.
Are they all out the league now? Is it Orient still in the league?
Crawley. Well, no, Crawley and Leighton Orient are still in the league, but Leighton Orient have been out and come back, haven't they?
Yeah.
And the final game in charge for Stephen was actually a 2-2 draw at Bramall Lane. We were 2-0 up with 12 minutes left.
We conceded 2 goals.
Yeah.
That's not like us.
2 goals to 10 men, Claudio.
Oh dear.
They had, you remember Jose Baxter?
Yes.
He got sent off early in the game. And as I said, Dominic Samuel scored twice for us. The second just after half time. We were leading, 12 minutes left. Michael Doyle scored. And a lad called Jamie Murphy got the equaliser 2 minutes later.
Dear, oh dear. You're struggling when things like that happen.
I know.
That's a team low on confidence that you can't keep a 2-goal lead against 10 men with 10 minutes to go.
Yes. So Tony, moved into a situation that was pretty miserable. And he must have been told by Tim Fisher and co that there was no money to spend. We had a joint caretakers for 2 games, which was David Hockaday and Neil McFarlane.
Blimey.
And we beat Milton Keynes MK Dons at home 2-1, and we lost 1-0 at Barnsley. But the win against MK Dons actually lifted us out of the relegation zone. And Tony arrived for the Port Vale game. Jim O'Brien put us ahead in the 4th minute. Then Port Vale scored 2 goals just before half time. And then Sammy Aldalusi, do you remember him? He scored an equaliser with 20 minutes left. But Michael O'Connor got the winner 6 minutes later. And the attendance, 9,400.
I was going to say around about 9,000.
Yeah. So that wasn't a very auspicious start for Tony. But in actual fact, how many games did he have left? About 15 games left. He only won 1 out of 6 home games. No, 1 out of 7 home games that season. Fortunately, he was unbeaten in 6 away games.
That's
what was it about the Rico Arena then? It's almost as bad as now, isn't it?
Yeah, but to be honest, it's only that season when we came back when we beat Forest 3-2. We had 6 games in a row where we won 6 in a row.
Yeah.
Then we drew with Derby. That's the only time I can remember where when you turned up every Saturday to watch this at home, you felt like you're going to win, and then it tailed off since then again. To be honest,
well, you say that, but that season we might have won the first 6, but we ended up only winning 10.
Yeah,
we lost 8.
That's what I mean. It's after that first 6 games, it seems to drop off massively. Do you think it's coincided? Well, no, because we had poor crowds back then. I was thinking the larger the crowd, are they getting jelly legs, these players nowadays? Or is it I don't know.
If you look at last year's top 6 in the Championship, they all won 15 or 16 home games.
Yeah.
Or more. We, in the last 4 seasons, we've never won more than 11 home games.
Yeah, that's not good enough, is it?
No. In fact, you've got to go back to you've got to go back to the cup final season when we won 14 for a half decent home season.
Well, that's bonkers. I mean, that's years ago.
It is. Do you not think there's a curse on this stadium?
It must be. I think it's from the day they thought about it.
Yeah. It's that Leicester City fan who buried the shirt, isn't it?
Yeah. Definitely. There's something not right.
Yeah. So Tony's start wasn't very, very good. And then, of course, we had the dreadful relegation season where Tony left us quite early in the season when he hadn't won a game. And things, I think we were bottom of the league of League One when he left. And we never recovered, did we? We had Mark Venus as caretaker.
Yeah.
He seemed to turn it round a little bit, and then it fell apart. I remember going to Oxford in November time, and I think Mark had dragged us out of the relegation zone, but that day we were abysmal, absolutely abysmal.
But the squad was poor, wasn't it, as well? We'd lost players.
It was, yeah. And then a couple of weeks later, we had that dreadful cup defeat at Cambridge where we lost 4-0. So it wasn't much. I think it was only another week when Mark Venus stood down. And for the Boxing Day clash at Eastville, we had, no, it wouldn't be Eastville, would it? What's their stadium called now?
Memorial Stadium.
Memorial Stadium, yeah. A lot of City fans went to Bristol that day. I didn't go, but we got absolutely buried by them, didn't we? 4-1. That was Russell's debut.
What made them picked Russell Slade. I just find that astonishing. That was the choice. Were the choices that bad that they picked him? Was he the best? Was he the best of the bad bunch? I just find that astonishing.
Well, the thing is, he'd done quite well at Leighton Orient for a while, didn't he? He got them. I remember them coming to Sixfields in League One. It must have been 2013-14. Now they were top of League One at the time, and he was the manager. But they missed. I think they faded that season and just missed out on the playoffs. Then they got relegated. I think the following year they went from sort of being the best side in the League One to being relegated, and he got the sack. And he went to Cardiff when they were in the Championship, and he got 2 reasonable finishes with them, 11th and 8th.
Okay.
Then he went to Charlton in League One, and he only lasted 4 months.
Right.
And a month later, he was unveiled as the Coventry City manager.
I suppose, in all honesty, that's probably all we could afford.
Yeah.
Not like we were, drowning in cash, were we?
No.
We're definitely drowning, but it wasn't with cash, that's for sure.
No, that was a dreadful season, wasn't it? And only lightened by the Checker Trade final.
Did you think that it was a strange season? Because I went that relegation season. I think I went to more because I played hockey on Saturdays as well, but I tried to go as many games as I could. I went to more games that season when we were in dire straits than I did to previous seasons. In the sad thought that me turning up could save them from going down. You know what I mean? It was like, what can I do my bit?
Yes.
And it was we were like in a whirlpool, weren't we? We were slowly going down that funnel.
Yes.
We were sinking. It just, and of course we had the arrival of Mark Robbins, didn't we?
That's right. Thankfully, because Russell Slade, I don't know if you looked at his record, but
it's shambolic, isn't it?
1 league win in 13 games.
Yeah.
Okay, he did win 3 Checker Trade games and got us to Wembley. People forget that, don't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, some of those games were dreadful. I remember going to Northampton. I think I saw more games, away games that season than normal. But I remember going to Northampton, and Jordan Willis got sent off early on, and the City fans were toxic.
I was going to say the away games were less. The away games were less toxic than the home games, but that was the game where was that a cup game or league match?
No, league game, yeah.
Where they're all on the pitch, weren't they?
Yeah,
yeah. We'd played hockey in the morning at Northampton, and then went to the game in the afternoon.
Right.
It was on the way back, and not that we saw much of it because it was chaotic.
Yeah, well, our fans invaded the pitch, didn't they?
Yeah, yes, it was. Yeah,
we lost 3-0.
It was terrible. It was terrible, and the arrival of Mark Robbins pretty much saved it. It's a shame he didn't come sooner because he didn't do too badly, did he? Really, the stint he did. He didn't start great though, did he? But he pulled it back.
No, well, he lost his first 3 games. But look at what he had to play with. You look at some of the players we had in the team. Farran Rawson.
Yeah.
Stuart Bevan, Kwame Thomas, Callum Riley, Charles Vernham.
Yeah.
Nathan Clark.
Yes.
and with a smattering of our kids, you know, the people who, you know, young lads who were thrown in too soon, people like Ben Stevenson and the Kelly Evans, Ryan Haynes, Biggie Romana.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, Big Romana and Ryan Haynes did okay in the end, because I mean, I know my lad and his friends used to love Ryan Haynes. They used to think it was great.
Yeah. But those kids, in normal times, those kids would be given a couple of games and then rested.
Yeah.
And brought back, you know, as and when they'd strengthened a bit, but they had to play, didn't they? There was no option.
I could have asked Dave Body this on Saturday, because I was with him actually.
You're a name dropper.
I know. I thought I'd slip that in quickly. They do it on other podcasts. So I thought I'd do it in this one. The timeline of Dave Body when he arrived at the club then, was it after this? I've lost track now.
Dave, right? Am I right in thinking Dave arrived before Mark Robbins to take over from Mark Venus?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think. I should have asked him. Did he bring Mark Robbins to the club? I can't remember. I know Mark Robbins. He tells a story where he was, I think it was at a service station or something, where he got a phone call from, I think it's Tony Pulis. It was he at West Brom at the time, Tony Pulis, I think.
Right.
And he said that he thinks there's a job going at Coventry, and Mark said he you know, it's like a calling or something. That's what he said at one of those supporters meetings. And that was the night where he explained why he came back, and he actually thought it was like the second coming, because he thought, he had a feeling that night, and a couple of the lads I was with, we actually said, I think we're going to get out of this league too. And you could feel it in the room that night. It's weird. It sounds a bit, you know, fantasist, whatever, but you just felt like maybe he's got something here. Maybe he's going to turn it around, which of course he did. But yeah, he had a hard time when you think of what was there and what we had, and the fact we had no squad really, did we? We had nothing.
We didn't. So I'm not sure when. Maybe Dave came that summer. I'm sure he was involved in the Checker Trade final, wasn't he?
I can't remember. It's only 8 years ago.
Yeah.
If it was 46 years ago, we'd remember.
We would. But I've just reminded myself of actually the worst player in that period. And he probably goes down as one of the worst players I've ever seen play for the club, and that was Yakubu.
Oh, that game where he was on the halfway line, when he just stood there. Do you remember?
Yeah.
He didn't move.
I know.
It was, yeah, absolutely shocking. So
I think Yakubu actually arrived. It was Slade who brought Yakubu in. So where are we? Mark Robbins has arrived. And he's lost his first 3 games.
Sorry, Jim. Dave Body was appointed in 2017, June 2017.
Oh, so after the Checker Trade then?
Yeah, he must have come in. Yeah.
Oh, well spotted. Well spotted. Yeah, so let's talk a bit about some of the other managers who preceded Stephen Presley. And there's not that many who actually won their first game. I do remember Peter Reid winning his first game. He did, didn't he?
Yeah.
He beat his old team, Sunderland. That was 2005-6 season. Was it? No, 2004-5. the last season at Highfield Road. We beat Sunderland on the opening day. I think McSheffrey scored. But Reed's record was shocking. He won eight league games in 28.
That's pretty much what Mark Robbins did in the last 28 matches.
Don't compare them, please.
That's what Doug King was looking at.
Then we had Mickey Adams took over from Peter Reed. When do you remember the Leeds game at New Year when the whole of Highfield Road was chanting "Reed out"?
Yes, yeah.
And he fell on his sword the following day, didn't he? And agreed to go without any compensation.
It's interesting what Oggy said, though, didn't he? That how he just left. I think he just. I don't think his heart wasn't in it at all. I think the whole experience at Sunderland. I mean, that was a few years before. Wasn't great, and after that, he was struggling as a manager, and I think he just lost his way. I think he just had enough, to be honest.
Yeah. So Mickey Adams came after Peter Reed, and he had a poor start as well. He lost his first 4 games, and from a position of just below halfway, I guess, we lost those 4 games, and suddenly we're in a relegation battle.
Yeah, I mean, and Adams had a decent record as a manager. He wasn't too bad, was he? At other clubs?
No, he'd won promotion with Leicester, hadn't he?
Yeah. So it's what is it with other club?
I know. Then, of course, we moved to the Rico, and Mickey lasted another 18 months, didn't he?
Yeah.
After the move, he was almost 2 years, I think, in the job. And then Ian Dowie came along, and he actually won his first game. He beat Southampton 2-1. Do you remember that game, a night game?
I do, yes. But another one who came with decent record.
And he started well. He was unbeaten in his first 6 games, and then he didn't win a game in 6.
So I'm trying to think. Was Reed? Who was Cece's first appointment then?
Coleman.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Dowie was in charge when Sisu completed the takeover, and the stories were going around that Dowie had his shopping list for Ray Ranson,
Right.
and it was all old lags.
Right.
I remember one of the names on the list was Darren Moore.
Right. Okay.
And Ray Ranson, what I heard was Ray Ranson basically tore up the list and sacked Dowie.
Blimey. Yeah. What else was on there? Something incriminating. Did he rip it up and then eat it?
Well, you see, Ranson had the bright. See, Dowie had brought in all the Crystal Palace mob, hasn't he? Julian Gray and Gary Borrowdale and Michael Hughes, all that.
Yeah,
those are the characters. So I think it was going to be more of the same from Dowie. He wanted, people he knew and coming down from the Premiership on probably big money.
Yeah.
So that didn't appeal to Ray Ranson, who at that time was calling all the shots. Ray's strategy was to buy young up and coming players and develop them. Not dissimilar to the Robbins approach, I guess.
Yeah.
And he signed Dan
and Fox.
Dan and Fox, yeah.
Well, Scott Dan went on to have a good career, didn't he?
He did. Yeah.
I remember one week I was watching. That's probably about 2 or 3 seasons ago, where virtually every Premier League team had got somebody playing that was at our club at some stage in the previous 10 years. It was a lone player like Henderson, or you know what I mean? It was like all these players. I think I can't believe all these players. I've seen them all play at our club. Unfortunately, not all at the same time.
No.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So I think Dowie only lasted about 6 weeks into the Sisu ownership. But we were 19th when he was sacked.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like it wasn't all about who he wanted to sign. It was the position, the poor position we're in, and a new owner wanted new face, obviously. So Chris Coleman came in, and he won his first game, 2-0 at home to Leicester.
Yeah.
And of course, that was the season that Leicester went down.
Yeah, we tried our best.
That result, that single result, was actually vital in keeping us up, because if you remember on the final day, Leicester drew at Stoke but went down. We lost at Charlton and stayed up.
Yeah, one more goal. If we'd have let in one more goal, we were going down, weren't we?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not often you lose 4-0 and stay up, whatever it was.
But you know, you look at the side that Dowie left behind. I was just looking at the lineup for Coleman's first game. You know, we had Andy Marshall, Danny Fox, Elliot Ward, Stephen Hughes, Jay Tabb, Leon Best, Michael Mifsud, Julian Gray, Kevin Thornton on the bench. You know, it wasn't a bad team, was it?
You wouldn't mind a couple of those now around the team, would you?
No. But yeah, Coleman, he might have won his first game, but it went downhill from there, didn't it?
Yeah, I used to see Chris Coleman in the Bowling Green in Warwick quite a lot, actually.
Okay.
On a Monday night, normally, we'd play hockey at St. Nick's and Warwick, and we'd go to the Bowling Green afterwards. He'd be in there, and my friends would say, "Look, it's your manager there," and I'd be like, "I don't want to speak to him at all."
No.
I just was not happy. I thought, he looks like he's enjoying himself. Well, I know a fair few thousand cop fans who aren't at the minute enjoying it one single bit.
No. Well, he only won 5 out of 18 that first spell. And as I said, we almost went down on the last day at Charlton, and then we had two more seasons of Coleman, didn't we?
See, that's the thing. It's almost like the years you forget, isn't it?
I know.
It's weird.
You know why you forget them? Because they were so bad.
Yeah, I know. It is. It's true, isn't it? It's like the tumbleweed seasons, aren't they, really? Where you're just drifting hopelessly. No direction at all whatsoever. That's just somebody who's taking the money, basically. I don't think he cared one bit.
We did have the excitement of a big game against Chelsea in his first full season, 6th round of the cup.
Yeah, did Frankie Lampard
Rico?
Did Drogba score that night? I'm trying to think who scored now.
Drogba and the Russian fullback, wasn't it? Alex.
Right.
Do you remember Alex?
Yeah.
I think he was Russian. Oh no, he was Brazilian actually. Just
Russian.
Yeah.
He was rushing though. He was rushing down the wing. That's what you probably think, Jim.
Oh dear.
And that would have been our record attendance, wouldn't it, that night then?
It was a Saturday game, early kickoff on Sky.
So but it was a record attendance, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 31,000. Yeah.
What is our record attendance now? Because
that is it. Yeah.
Right.
I'm not sure they can ever get more than that unless they do some alterations.
Yeah, it's. I noticed that on Saturday actually. There's still some odd flags here and there, isn't there, covering seats. And when with the cameras as well. They seem to be in all sorts of places right around the stand. So
yeah. See, I was watching the bit of a tangent this, but I was watching the Liverpool Man City game on Sunday, and where at the away end, where they give half that end to the away supporters,
yeah,
they separate them from the Liverpool fans with about just three rows of seats.
yeah.
It's very, very narrow, the border between the opposing fans. I think at Coventry, I think it's the safety officer drives it, isn't it?
Well, it will be. It'll be at the stadium. They're in charge of it all.
Yeah.
It's not a club thing. I think the club are just guided.
Yes.
By what the stadium management people say you can and can't do.
Yeah.
Well, I know that for a fact. Yeah, it's like the road closures, all that. That's all. That's nothing to do with Doug King and Taylor and everybody else involved with the club. That's outside stuff.
Yeah. So Chris Coleman lasted two and a half seasons really, and didn't pull up many trees. And his replacement was A.D. Boothroyd.
You have to say, as a club, whoever was in charge did try to get the right people in. I mean, Mickey Adams, Ian Dowie, even Coleman, A.D. Boothroyd, these were good managers before they came. They were quite well. They did have some success, didn't they? Before they came to.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, all of them came with a reasonable track record. Boothroyd had the problem, the long ball tag, didn't he?
Yeah.
But we had a good half season under AD. But I think it was Oggy explained, didn't he, to us that he revert to the long ball game. He was playing some attractive football, and some of the players didn't like it. I think there's problems behind the scenes with the players, maybe.
And also, I suppose the cash has run out by now. There is no money, really, is there?
No. No, it was. It wasn't quite as bad as under Andy Thorne.
Yeah,
that relegation season, but it was. You're right. It was getting there. I think and CISA would put some strange characters into the boardroom, haven't they?
Texas sub.
Yeah.
What's all that about? What was his name?
We had Ken DeLue as well, didn't we? And I'm not sure when Ray Ranson left or when Ken DeLue arrived, but it was around that time. So AD lasted less than a season, and his replacement as a caretaker at first, but then he got the main job quite quickly, was Andy Thorne, who had never managed before and has never managed since.
We're just like a management graveyard, aren't we? Is that what we are? I mean, you talk about Stephen Presley. He was manager for Carlisle, wasn't he, at one stage?
Yes.
And I was, I'm going to name drop again. I was in a Bar Angeli in Leamington. I was sat outside, and Stephen Presley was there, and he was having a coffee. It's a Saturday. I think we've got an away game, and I wasn't going to it. I was sitting there, and I was thinking, I'm sure he's manager of Carlisle. What's he doing here? So I went over, and I just says, Stephen, yeah, Saturday and all that, and manager of Carlisle. And he says, I've been sacked. I'm sorry. It must have happened like the day before or something. It's like, I couldn't understand why he was on a match day. He was in Leamington. I know he's round out. He lives round here, doesn't he? But
he lives in Wills Road, yeah.
Yeah. And it just made me laugh. I thought, oops. Yeah, I shan't. Yeah, it was a weird day because I think a couple of days later, Sophie Turner from Game of Thrones was sat there as well. So
Right.
it's a popular cafe. But
Yeah, well, it's funny during lockdown. There's just round in Clarendon Street in Leamington. There's a Vets, and just round the corner from Warwick Street, and we had to take our dog into the Vets in Leamington, and of course during COVID, the lockdown, you couldn't go into the Vets with your dog, so I was sat outside on the wall. Waiting for our dog to be done, and Stephen Presley walked up, and I knew him I met him through the Former Players Association previously, and we had and of course we share a birthplace. We were actually both born in Elgin in Scotland,
right.
and so we had a chat outside the Vets just around the corner from his house, and he's a lovely guy, absolute charming guy.
We'll have to get him on here because it'll be good to have on. Actually,
he would be excellent.
Player
Did you see him on TV?
Yeah.
After the Sheffield United game, he was on Sky, wasn't he?
Yeah. I watched it. Yeah, he was very good, I thought.
He was. Yeah, we must do that. Yeah, we must do that. So where were we? We've Andy Thorne, what we were talking about. Yeah. I think he was the chief scout. That was his job. That was his skill, I think, in football. He was an excellent scout. And he took over as caretaker with Steve Harrison. Do you remember Steve Harrison?
Well, he coached Watford.
Yeah, Watford he was Ages number 2. Yeah.
Graham Taylor. Yeah.
Yeah, he stayed on with Andy. They had I think he lost two out of the last 10 games, and avoided relegation, which I don't think it was ever a major threat that season. But on the final day, you remember, he got a great result at Norwich. Norwich were promoted, and we got a 2-2 draw at Carrow Road. A rare good result there. So Andy was promoted. Was then the caretaker tag was taken off. He was given the job full time, and then proceeded to get us relegated the following season.
So not as good as the previous scout, as in John Sillick. That's what he used to do, didn't he, for the club?
Yes,
and became. Talk about getting a bounce with a new manager. When him and George came in, it certainly with 3 games to go that season, it certainly turned it around.
It did.
So it's that was interesting, that appointment, because, and it reminded me when Bobby Gould came to the club, because everybody in the stand were talking about it before it was even announced, wasn't it? There was this rumor going around the whole stand, Bobby Gould.
Yes.
And there was quite a buzz about it, definitely. Because
I think it was so much of a rumor. It was actually in the Bristol newspapers that day.
Was it? Brilliant.
Bobby's left.
and I remember my dad buzzing, Bobby Gould, he's coming back, he's going to be the manager. And it was a bit like that with John Sillett and George Curtis when we heard they were going to come in. And it was an immediate lift, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it did the business.
Yeah. It did.
And it sort of carried on for the next 2 or 3 seasons.
So have we done that to death a bit? The new manager bounce?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking down. McAllister, he was beaten at Sheffield United, unbeaten in 4, 6th in January, 1 win in final, 22, almost relegated.
Yeah,
it's interesting when people say, "Oh, why don't they try and get McAllister here?" Well, just look at previous records. I just find it odd how fans pluck out names from the air sometimes, and
Yes.
I mean, Nilsson, I've got to say, I felt sorry for him. I mean, did he want to go back to Sweden? Did he want to go back home or something? It was
no, he was sacked.
it was,
He was sacked.
He had no choice but to go back to Sweden then.
No, absolutely.
But he was doing all right, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, Roland had a great start, and I think he was 8 unbeaten in the league, and we were in the top. We were top of the table in October, and the good form continued. It wasn't perfect, but we were in the top 3 or 4 at Christmas.
Right.
And then they. Now I don't know the order of what happened, but in January, Brian Richardson got the sack.
Right.
Either just before that or just after that, Richard Money, who'd been helping Roland.
Yeah.
It was a great double act. Richard was the academy director, and they put him into the first team job with Roland. And then all of a sudden, Richard Money went back to the academy, and Jim Smith arrived.
Right.
And it all went wrong from that point on. And it was, we managed to hang into the top 6 right until about the last 6 or 7 games, and then it all just collapsed.
Yeah, we do 1-1 in the last 9 or something like that. It was.
Yes.
Yeah, because we were sitting there quite comfortably, weren't we? It looked like
we were.
Definitely.
Yeah, we just had to have, pretty average form, and we'd have been in the playoffs. So we were never going to go straight up.
So Richard Money, Richard Money started career as Liverpool, didn't he? He was at Liverpool. Then he went to Fulham.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
And then did he manage Fulham after us, or was he at Fulham as a coach as well? I can't remember the.
Goodness.
I know. He was well thought of.
Yeah,
and
he was. He never managed anybody.
Oh, didn't he? Just coached.
Hang on, I'm looking. Oh, maybe he was a manager. Scunthorpe in the 90s. And then after us, he managed Walsall for 3 seasons.
That's it. Right. I thought he'd gone somewhere.
And then Cambridge for 2 seasons, or a season and a half at Cambridge. Yeah.
I wonder if he was at Walsall when Marshy was there, our kit man, and AD and Mark Robbins.
Yeah, I don't know. Hang on.
That's a bit of homework.
Yeah, I've got it on the screen. Then Mark Robbins had retired by that time.
Had he?
Yeah. And AD, they were. Yeah, Scott Dan and Danny Fox were there.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's why we got hold of them.
Yes. Yeah. So Richard Money was a highly rated academy director, and he'll be retired now. I think he's about my age. So did you want to talk about a couple of books that we've received and we like to plug?
Yes, why not?
Yeah.
Have you got them at hand? I've got one of them. Well, I did have one of them. I've got the other one down. Which book you're going to plug?
Well, I think there's 3. There's 3 I was going to mention. First was Benno's book.
Yeah, well, I got that in my. I've got that in my hand. Here it is.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Benno's book, which I think he's co-written with Rich Chamberlain.
That's right. Yes, he has. Yeah, Rich Chamberlain.
When the Sky Was Blue or something.
It's had mixed reviews. I've heard some people enjoyed it. Some people thought it was a bit bitter in it. It's interesting.
Okay.
The original, I think somebody said they've seen the original, but with all the I can't remember who told me about it. it could have been Rob Gurney actually, where they've seen the original book with it's all photographs with some script, and they said it's really good. It was actually really good, but I don't know what happened to it, why that got shelved, and it became a book.
Okay, because I think Steve Phelps was writing it and then had to pull out.
Yes, and I think Dave mentioned that when he came to one of our meetings.
Right.
So yeah.
But the few things I took away from it, I thought Rich Chamberlain's other book was based on a lot of interviews, wasn't it?
Yeah,
He interviewed a lot of players from the 90s and the 2000s.
Yeah.
And I felt Benno's book felt like it was one long interview, probably
Right.
lots of different interviews, but it came over as a book of interviews rather than a book written, if you like. Which there's nothing wrong with that. I thought it told a good story. It told great stories about Benno when he was growing up and fighting his way into the Man City first team. He was he's only about 18 when he made his debut for Manchester City, and only 21 when he played at Wembley for them. It's a great story. The other thing, he's got some great stories about his Coventry City time, but I'd actually never realised how many vital goals he scored. He was the ultimate big time, the big game man, wasn't he? The man for the big moment. If you look at, he got the goal when we had to stay up against Norwich in '84, got the winning goal. Then 2 years later, he got the goal against QPR that kept us up. Then he scored at Hillsborough in the semi-final.
Yeah.
And he scored at Wembley.
Yeah, and he created so many as well. When you see the amount of, you think, well, I mean, he even says his own admission was he didn't come as a winger. He came as like a central striker playing off a big man kind of role.
Yes.
He ended up out on the wing. He's one of the best wingers I've ever seen.
He is.
Undoubtedly.
At Coventry anyway, yeah.
Yeah. I've not seen too many right wingers as good as him at Coventry.
No.
We may have somebody now in Sakamoto if he gets the ball over.
Yes.
He's got that same sort of skills, but he was very athletic as well, wasn't he? And
he was
and awkward, as Brendan Ormsby found out when he thought that ball was going out in the semi-final and hooked his leg round. Very tenacious, brave. A top player was David Bennett. Top player. He'd love this now.
Of the 1987 team, how many of them have actually produced a biography?
I mean, the one who should do is Steve Grizovic.
Yeah.
It'd be encyclopedic, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
He really should, I think.
So who are the one who's done one?
Keith has done one, hasn't he? Keith Houchin's got a book out, hasn't he?
Yes.
Did Cyril do one?
No.
I can't think of many more.
Did you say Sil?
No, Cyril.
Cyril did one, yes. I thought you said Sil.
No.
Because John Sillett never did one. Yes, I loved Keith Houchins.
Yeah.
What was it called? Something about kippers, wasn't it?
Yes. His upbringing's fantastic. Well, it wasn't fantastic, but it is fantastic.
My good friend Jonathan Strange did that one for Keith,
right.
And they built up a great rapport. They're still in contact. They're good friends.
When he lived in Bubbenhall, and I always remember the day when he'd bring his dad into our pub, and he just loved football. He was like a schoolboy in a sweet shop playing in our team in the top league. He couldn't believe it. And he knew I got this, even then, back in the 80s, I've got a big programme collection, although most of it then was obviously Coventry, but lots of other clubs as well. And I said I got a load of Hartlepool and Middlesbrough stuff. And he told me I had to go and fetch it all to show his dad, because it was all from the 50s.
Yeah.
I remember just sitting in the pub with his dad, just looking at all these programs. He was poring over them. He was loving every minute of it.
Lovely.
It was great, and I thought this is like a guy who's playing the first division. I'm sitting here with him, just chatting about football.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. And he always used to say, he's gone about his house in Bubbenhall. He used to say, "I bought this house in Bubbenhall. I could buy the whole street where I lived in Middlesbrough."
Yeah, I'm sure.
It was a complete different world away to where he was brought up from. Yeah,
It was a box of kippers, wasn't it?
That's it. Yeah,
yeah, a very good book.
Is that what they signed him for, or something? Was it?
Yeah, I think it was. So this is one I got last week. Can you see that?
Oh yeah.
This is A Season to Remember, Coventry 86-87.
What happened then?
It's the story of just one season by a chap called Michael Keane, who says he was a teenager in 86. So that would make him in his 50s now.
Yeah.
In his 50s. It's published by Victor Publishing, who've done some other football books. It's quite a small little book. It's only 110 pages, but it's very thorough. There's very little padding in it. He does an introduction. He does several paragraphs on each of the squad. And then he has a match report of every game with the lineups in chronological order, and it really is well written. And we all know lots and lots about the cup run.
Yeah.
This covers the whole season, which you have to say is one of the top 3 or 4 seasons we've had in the last 60 years.
Yes, true. No, that's that go on the Christmas list.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how much it costs. It hasn't got a price on it. I don't know how much it costs, but it's anyway. I would recommend it definitely. And then the third one, we've talked about Steve Phelps already, but this is he's redone this book. I think about 20 years old, but he's brought it up to date. Coventry City on this day.
Yeah, it came out.
Lots and lots of facts, and you just look up a day, and it tells you something about that happened in Coventry City's history.
It's so funny because he sent me a message saying, "I'm going to send you a copy." He says, "Can you believe they just sacked Mark Robbins?" And I've just put the book out.
Yeah.
Could have hung
what
on
happens.
for more weeks, yeah.
So, what's the date today? Should we look up today's date? Is it the 3rd?
It is the 3rd.
Oh, this was a famous day. This is my era. Saturday, the 3rd of December, 1966.
Oh.
5 months on from City's 3-1 win at Molineux, the same scoreline brought jubilation to Highfield Road as promoted Coventry closed in on the Division 2 title. Back in December, Ian Gibson, Ronnie Rees and John Key clinched 2 points for Jimmy Hill's men as 27,000 Black Country supporters watched the eventual champions at work. Well, actually, it was the eventual 2 promoted teams.
Yeah.
He admits to say that it was a snow-covered pitch.
Oh, it was allowed in those days.
Yeah, and Wolves actually hammered us. We were quite lucky to win 3-1. We weathered the storm, of course, and deserved to win, but Wolves probably felt they were a bit unlucky. And on the 2nd of December, 1961, Jimmy Hill's first match as Coventry City manager. He welcomed Northampton Town to Highfield Road. Mike Dixon's goal opened Hill's account and began an unbeaten run which stretched into the middle of March. No, it was an unbeaten home run. They weren't unbeaten. That's a mistake, isn't it? Oh, Steve. Hill's first season ended with a 14th place finish in Division 3.
Is that Dixon as in related to Kerry Dixon?
Kerry Dixon's father.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was quite a prolific goal scorer, but Jimmy Hill never fancied him and he sold him at the end of the season.
That's the sort of thing Jimmy Hill did.
Yeah. Yeah, he sold all the forwards and kept all the defenders.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So that's, I would recommend that. I like that book. It's a great one for, quiz questions and the like.
Yeah, I've got he's done a miscellaneous one, hasn't he, as well, which I've got as well. That's from about the same period as the first one of that one, I think.
What's your birthday?
26th of May.
Well, I tell you what happened on that day. Everton,
yeah.
That's one of those dates that just sticks in my head.
Yeah. I can't imagine there's much else on that day apart from that.
Steve Sedgley was born on that day.
Was he?
Steve Sedgley was born on your birthday.
I reckon I'm a better midfielder.
So I think, is that it? Any more books?
No, not round my feet. Have you got anything in line? Have you thought of doing anything else?
No, nothing in the pipeline.
Maybe we should do a joint one.
I'm too busy with the archives.
Yeah. Oh, I did question Mr. Taylor last Thursday night about that. And he goes, yes, I've spoken to Jim and me and Doug are trying to work something out, is what he said.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he's been in touch. And
since then as well, since last week?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Well, there you go, you see.
Yeah. So we're Lionel Bird and I are up there every week, and we're making great strides and working on a couple of interesting things that will come to light in the new year.
Brilliant. I've been given loads more stuff as well, which I need to sort out and see what you need or what you don't need. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, hopefully that will happen because it's something the club needs for generations to come, to go and look at the archives and all the rest of it that comes with it. It'd be a fantastic project if it gets off the ground, basically. That's my thing. Yeah.
Well, we're also taking another route as well, which I won't tell you too much about, but certainly on the podcast, but until the new year when we can hopefully launch it. But there's a different avenue we're taking with the club's archives and their history, which is really exciting.
That's excellent. Now, I'm going to Millwall on Saturday.
So am I.
I'll see you down there.
Okay.
And are you going to the Baggies on the Wednesday?
No.
Oh, I'm doing that one as well.
Traffic in the West Midlands on a midweek night is a nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, I finish work early, so I'm getting picked up early, and we're going to go as early as we can, basically, and get over there. Yeah. But I like the Millwall's ground, and I like the Hawthorns, so I just wanted to go there, basically.
Yeah, I've just had so many miserable days at the Hawthorns, so many.
I'm hoping to catch one good one.
I've seen us concede 7 there and 2 6s.
Oh, yes. I've seen. I don't know if you went. I went to the pre-season friendly, 1975, 76, end of the season. They just got promoted back into the top flight. I think we lost 5-1 or 5-0.
Yeah,
and that's a friendly.
Yeah,
and we lived in the Black Country then. We're about to move back to Warwick, and it was never a good time. They just looked massive, didn't they, West Brom? With that, green, especially when whichever kit they played in, they looked huge. Whether it's the blue and white stripe or the green and yellow, they just look huge.
But maybe it's this year's the year, because they've got a worse home record than we have.
Seriously?
They've only won 1 home game.
Oh. That's it. Yeah, but they must be great away from home.
They are. Yeah, they are.
That's interesting, you see, because maybe with Corberán, the way he sets his teams up are perfect for playing away, but not at home.
Well, the last time I looked, they'd only scored 2 home goals.
Oh, dear, oh dear. So you never know. You never know, Jim. It could be 6 out of 6
No.
coming up. The new manager bounce. Should we leave it there?
Yeah, let's leave it there.
Well,
I might see you Saturday.
yeah, I
Bye.
hope you
Good night,
see you Saturday.
Claudio. Yeah.
Good night. Good night. Good night, Jim.
Radio Company of Business. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. Lovely.